Will Uber Pool and Lyft Line return in 2022? Or will they even return at all? Now this is really interesting. If I Google Lyft Line, and as a side note, Lyft Line, Uber Pool, same thing. All you're doing is taking a Lyft or an Uber, but you're sharing the car with other people. So it's carpooling and it saves you some money. If I Google Lyft Line, I don't really have anything on the Lyft website. Obviously, there's other sites that talk about Lyft Line, but going here to Lyft, I can see the 9 options for taking a Lyft in terms of the different rides. I can rent, bikes and scooters, wait and save, regular Lyft, priority pickup, preferred mode, Lyft XL, Lyft Lux, and transit. Lyft Line is not listed here, which makes me wonder, will Lyft ever even come back with Lyft Line? Lyft Line and Uber Pool, there's a lot of pros, a lot of cons. A lot of drivers hated doing it. I remember still my first ever Uber Pool ride, and it was a nightmare. Honestly, it was a nightmare. So I wonder if maybe they're not going to bring it back. Now, the one advantage for a lot of passengers taking an Uber Pool and a Lyft Line is the price. It was a lot cheaper. However, Lyft introduced wait and save, where you wait a certain period of time and it's a lot cheaper. So maybe from Lyft's perspective, they're like, well, if people want to save money, they could do wait and save because it's budget friendly, as it says right here. Maybe we don't even return with Lyft Line. So that's pretty interesting to me. Secondly, now going to Uber, Uber rebranded Uber Pool to UberX Share. I wonder why they did that. I don't know if maybe it was because, I don't know, maybe like it's what Internet Explorer did or Microsoft did with Internet Explorer and what do they call it, like the Microsoft Edge or something. But it was kind of like the same thing essentially. I don't know, probably just some weird rebranding like Facebook did with Meta. Maybe they're just trying to save face, I don't know. But this is kind of interesting too. UberX Share is 5% cheaper than UberX and offers riders Uber Cash if they share their trip with another rider going in the same direction. Now, back in the day when I took an Uber Pool, or now called UberX Share, it definitely wasn't just 5% cheaper. Sometimes it was 50% cheaper. It was a lot more price friendly, and especially here in LA where the Ubers are so expensive because you're going such long distances, it really saved you a lot of money. 5% cheaper though, that's not that much. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, to me, it's like, I might as well just take a regular Uber at that point, right? Going down here, you will get a minimum of $2 in Uber Cash. So minimum $2, maybe you can get more, I guess it depends, on a trip if the app matches you with a co-rider. This Uber Cash can be used towards your next trip. So they're giving you Uber credit in addition to UberX Share being 5% cheaper than a regular Uber. If you do not get matched with anybody, the cost of the trip will be equal to the price was shown at the time it was requested. One thing that's interesting about the Uber Cash is, as you can see here, if a second rider orders and then cancels on your UberX Share, you may not receive any Uber Cash for that trip. So if you're expecting to get some credit from Uber and then someone just cancels, you're not going to get that credit, which is kind of interesting that they're doing that. But also, there are more rules too. You can only request an UberX Share trip for one passenger. And then lastly, there are some cancellation rules which make sense. So one, will Uber Pool or UberX Share and Lyft Line come back? Honestly, with Lyft Line, I don't know. Maybe it's the case that Lyft Line is now a true thing of the past and maybe it will never come back. With Uber, I'd say there's about 100% chance that they will bring this back, especially with their rebranding of Uber Pool to UberX Share. And in addition, the fact that they kind of changed the rules and the layout and the pricing a little bit differently shows that Uber's already thinking like, okay, when and how can we bring this back? Of course, right now, at the exact time of this video, I think the pandemic is kind of over. I don't know, I don't want to jinx it either, right? But it might or might not be over. However, at least here in LA, this depends area to area, you still have to wear masks in an Uber and a Lyft. I took one last night and I had to wear a mask. So that's kind of showing you, all right, it's not 100%, we're not 100% in the clear yet. And especially if you think about it, being in a car with another person who you don't know is arguably the worst thing if you're trying to be as safe as possible when it comes to COVID-19 and everything. So I feel like Uber's probably waiting a while just to make sure everything's super safe, just to make sure everyone is as safe as possible, and then they're gonna greenlight UberX Share. I'm gonna be honest though, I wonder if it's gonna be as popular as it was before if it does come back in 2022, because one, the pandemic, people might be like, you know what, I just don't want to risk it. It's another kind of added complication. I'm just gonna get a regular Uber. The second thing, like I showed you too, getting Uber credit, okay, that's not bad, right? But also getting 5% off, to me, I don't know if that's really worth it. I mean, like I said, back in the day, Uber Pool, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like taking it sometimes. It was fun to meet other people. However, there were a lot of complications and annoying parts about Uber Pool. I mean, one, you're packed in the car with other people. Two, let's say you get picked up first, you go and pick up other people. Based on the way the algorithm works, you could still get dropped off last, even though you got picked up first. And I know for all the drivers out there, you probably experienced this, where you pick somebody up and they started complaining over and over again, like, hey, I'm kind of late, I'm kind of late. And you're like, look, you chose to do Uber Pool. I did not force you to do that. You chose to do Uber Pool. It's always a gamble. If you're trying to, get there on time, we pick up other people, we drop them off. It's always a gamble. In addition, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like this, that with Uber Pool, in case you didn't know, before the pandemic, you could potentially have 3 different rides at the same time. For example, because the car could fit 4 people plus the driver, you could have 2 people going one place, 1 person going somewhere else, and another person going in a completely other area. There could be 3 simultaneous Uber Pools going on at the exact same time, which is pretty hectic and chaotic for the driver and everyone else in the car. I remember being like, wow, this is ridiculous. They're trying to do 3 pools at the same time. And of course, the drivers are getting paid pretty much nothing, right? They're not getting paid any extra, and they're probably getting, if anything, worse ratings and worse tips, because a lot of people complain about Uber Pool, which I still don't get. You chose to take Uber Pool. Why are you complaining that it's taking too long or there's other people in the car? Although, one unique side note, and I'm glad they did fix this, that for some reason, there's like a period of time, maybe about like a good amount of time, maybe like 6 or 8 months, where when you pulled up Uber, the first option was Uber Pool. So for a lot of people, let's say if you've never taken an Uber before, or you're not really paying attention, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna order it, you may not know you actually just ordered an Uber Pool as opposed to a regular Uber. I remember I was in an Uber Pool, some ladies got in the car, they're like, why is other people here? Like, what's going on? They started complaining, and the driver had to say, hey, unfortunately, you ordered an Uber Pool, not a regular Uber. This is just part of it. And they're like, no. We ordered a regular Uber. We ordered the first one that popped up, and because of the way the GUI worked, or the way that the app was laid out, Uber Pool was the first option, which is super annoying. But anyway, I digress. Do I think Uber Pool or UberX Share will come back this year? Honestly, if I had to give a yes or a no, I'd say yes. I think it is about a 50-50 chance, but I could see them near the end of this year, who knows, maybe around, I don't know, October, November, I honestly don't know, saying, look, the pandemic's hopefully over. Again, I don't want to jinx it. We don't require masks in the car anymore. So now we're going to reveal UberX Share, but I am curious, are these rules going to apply? When they do release it and, bring it back, are they going to keep these rules, or are they going to change them again? Maybe at the time they release it, they decide to mix some things up. And then of course, will Lyft follow suit? I don't think so, but maybe after UberX Share comes back, maybe it's another year. Maybe UberX Share and Uber kind of tests the waters out first. And if Lyft sees that it's going well, maybe after a year, Lyft says, okay, you know what? We want to wait a while. We want to make sure that, UberX Share is going okay and people aren't complaining about it too much. So we'll bring it back, but I don't see that happening. I don't know, it is tough to say, but I can see Lyft doing that maybe in 2023 or next year. But I don't know, I see Lyft saying, you know what, we're not doing it anymore. I think as a result of the pandemic, no more, carpooling when it comes to Lyft. Uber probably doesn't care as much, obviously, because they're already kind of probably trying to figure this out. Because the biggest thing, of course, for both companies is making things as budget friendly as possible. And I've mentioned this before in other videos, you kind of have this odd seesaw where drivers want to make the most amount of money, people want to spend the least amount of money. But there's no way to really perfectly balance that. As you can imagine, the less people pay, the less drivers get paid, and vice versa. So it's always kind of a tricky battle. And I think for both Uber and Lyft, they're always looking for budget-friendly options. Like I mentioned with Lyft having Wait and Save, Uber, you can order it a bit in advance. and sometimes it's cheaper, but with Lyft, I think that budget-friendly option's a lot more integrated in the app, I think, and it's a lot easier to see how much money you're saving based off the different options and time waits that you have. With Uber, just kind of vague, if that makes sense. So Uber might bring this back. It's all about saving money. You know, I don't know. It's tough to say, but I will say this, and I'm going to say this 100%, that with drivers being more frustrated than ever before with not getting paid as much and not being compensated as much, I think UberX Share, with it coming back, or if it does come back this year, could be one of the biggest red flags for a lot of drivers.